Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Monday, December the 5th. We're back to talk through Monday's NBA slate, talking some NBA for today. I hope you guys had a good weekend. We're going to go game by game, kind of give you guys my quick thoughts on this 8-game slate, give a game by game breakdown, what stands out to me, taking a first look at this slate on Sunday night. Before we do get started with the breakdown though, as always, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos, if they do help you out, please hit that like button down below, and if you have not yet, hit that subscribe button as well. Also, if you're new to the channel, check out the sponsor of the video, this video, Prize Picks. So I'm sure most of you guys have heard about Prize Picks. They're a player prop based DFS site, and it's very simple to play on Prize Picks. You're not playing against other people or creating a lineup. It's you versus Prize Picks projections. So you take a look at their projections, you see the props that they have available, and you choose more or less. If you have a lean one way or the other, Prize Picks offers a ton of different categories. Obviously, their NBA board right now is pretty thin. There's not a ton of options, but that's because I'm making this video on Sunday night. Once we get closer to the start of the games on Monday, you'll see a full board with a ton of props to choose from. And again, you're just taking more or less. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 6 picks now, and you can win up to 25x your money on Prize Picks. So give them a try, guys. Sign up with promo code NOAH. You look at the bottom of the screen. When you do sign up with my promo code Prize Picks, they will match your first deposit up to $100. And I should have a Prize Picks video posted for today sometime, probably on Monday. Once we get some more props added, I'll share some plays I like for Prize Picks today. If you guys want to check out that video, I'll have a separate video posted on the channel, sometime kind of early Monday afternoon. But let's go ahead and talk through this 8-game slate, guys. We'll start off with the first game of the night, the Clippers and the Hornets. So looking at this one, starting off on the Clippers side, it's really tough to break down the Clippers right now because we have some big injuries here. Paul George is questionable and Kawhi Leonard's questionable. These are obviously two guys that dominate usage when they're on the floor. So Paul George and Kawhi are both questionable. We do know that Norman Powell is going to remain out, and I believe Luke Kennard is questionable as well. Kennard being questionable, I don't think is as impactful, but clearly PG and Kawhi is the big news to keep an eye on. So I think right now, if Paul George and Kawhi both play, I really don't like a ton from the Clippers today. I think Paul George maybe you could go to in tournaments, but with Kawhi back, I think George's usage might take a little bit of a hit. Kawhi's still going to be limited, so he's not really playable in DFS right now until he's full go, and they're going to keep limiting him, for a while. I think he's not going to play more than 24, 25 minutes a night. The more minutes that Kawhi plays, that's just worse for Paul George. So it's just not that appealing of a team if they're all healthy. I will say that Ivica Zubac's in a really good matchup. We've seen Charlotte get killed by centers this season, so in tournaments, I could see going to Zubac even if Paul George plays and if Kawhi Leonard plays. I could still see Zubac having a big game here just because the matchup is so favorable. But I'm not really loving many Clippers today. Now, if Paul George and Kawhi Leonard get ruled out, then that totally changes things because that just makes this team really shorthanded. We could look to guys like John Wall, Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson. Those guys will be viable. Terrence Mann as well. These guys have gotten priced up a little bit, but you could argue that they're still a little bit too cheap just because there would be so much usage available without Paul George and without Kawhi. John Wall is going to come off the bench, probably play mid-20s minutes, but clearly there'd be upside for him if Paul George and Kawhi are out. Same could be said for Marcus Morris. I think at 5,500 he's okay. Reggie Jackson at 5,300 would probably be my favorite Clipper if Paul George and Kawhi are out, just because I think Reggie Jackson's locked into close to 30 minutes a night, if not more than 30 minutes. He's only 5,300. I think he would look like a pretty good value. I think Terrence Mann would have to play a lot of minutes, and he would look like a pretty good value at 5K if Kawhi and PG are out. So there's definitely going to be some guys worth targeting here, but it all depends on if Kawhi and Paul George play. For now, assuming they play, I don't really like much on the Clippers. And then on the Charlotte side, Charlotte's still without LaMelo. They're still without Gordon Hayward. Dennis Smith Jr. is still out as well. Not a team I really have a ton of interest in today. I think the one guy I could see going to would be Terry Rozier, and that's just because Terry Rozier is going to continue to have a really big role. He's playing really big minutes on a nightly basis. He's taken a ton of shots. He's dominating the usage. His game log has not been the best this season. He's not had a ton of great games this year. He's only had 2 really good games, maybe 3. He had 57 DK points against the Pelicans. He had 44 against Cleveland, and he had 48 recently against Washington. Every other game has been mid-30s for Rozier. He really hasn't been paying off this price tag. But you look, he's playing huge minutes. He's taking a ton of shots. The upside is definitely there. So if I were to play anyone on Charlotte today, I think Rozier would be my favorite play. But Kelly Oubre at 7K, no thanks. PJ Washington at 5,600 feels priced about right. Mason Plumlee as a value center, I don't hate. But I'm not in love with Mason Plumlee. Jaden McDaniels is going to play 30 minutes, but he feels priced about right for today. So that does it for this game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, talk about the Bucks and the Magic. So obviously, this is a game that has a lot of blowout risk. The Bucks are going to be pretty much fully healthy for this game. The only guy that maybe could sit would be Brook Lopez. But Giannis is expected to play. I think Drew Holiday's probable. Chris Middleton's probable. So those guys are expected to play as well. With Milwaukee kind of fully healthy here, the only guy that really stands out is Giannis. I think Giannis in tournaments makes some sense. I don't think this is going to be a slate where I really prioritize paying up for Giannis, just because his price tag, matchup with Orlando. I think matchup with Orlando is fine, but there is definitely some blowout risk here. Don't know if this is a slate where I'm going to be jamming in Giannis, but it all depends on what kind of value we get. If we get a lot of value today, then sure, I have no issue paying up for Giannis because we know he just has such a high floor and such a high ceiling as well. But if I had to build my lineup right now, I don't think Giannis would be like a priority for me. Middleton and Drew, where they're priced at, I'm just kind of off of, especially with Middleton back now. Middleton was limited his first game, 27 minutes. He'll probably play similar minutes today. I don't think he's really viable. I do want to mention that Brook Lopez is questionable for rest. He did sit their last game, he did play their last game when everyone else sat. So that makes me think Brook Lopez might sit today. And if he were to sit, I would assume Bobby Portis would start in place of Brook Lopez. Now, Bobby Portis is not that cheap. He's $6,800, but we know Bobby Portis is a really good per-minute producer. If he starts, I'd assume he would play like 30 minutes, so he would be viable, but I wouldn't be like slamming Bobby Portis into my lineups because, it's $6,800. I mean, it's not like he's a free square. If he was like $5K, I would love him, but it's $6,800. Even if Brook Lopez is out, I'm not like in love with Portis, but I think he would at least be a playable option. Rest of Milwaukee, I'm pretty much off of, and then on the Orlando side, Orlando, they've been really, really short-handed lately. They've had a lot of guys out. It's kind of going to be the case once again today, but this is a really tough spot. Milwaukee's a really good defensive team. Obviously, this game has a little bit of blowout risk, so I really don't want to be like loading up on this game. I could see playing like Paolo Banchero in tournaments, but again, it's a really tough matchup. I don't love this spot for Banchero. Bol feels priced about right. Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, like none of these guys really stand out. I think Markelle Fultz, once he starts to play more minutes, he's going to be someone we can maybe consider. He did play 30 minutes against Cleveland, which is actually really good to see. I didn't know he played that much. He only played 19 minutes, though, in the second half of the back-to-back. I have no idea how many minutes we're going to get from Markelle Fultz today. But if he plays like 30 minutes, I mean, that's going to be pretty good. I don't know what happened for him to play 30 minutes. That's kind of weird that he got such a big minutes bump. He went from 17 to 30 and then back down to 19. That's a little weird. If Markelle Fultz, if you told me he played 30 minutes today, I would like him quite a bit. I just don't know if that's a guarantee. They obviously, Fultz is coming back from a big an injury that, and he's always kind of been injury prone, so he's not a guy that you really expect to play like huge minutes right out of the gate. But he got 30 minutes in that game against Cleveland, so maybe we could go to Markelle Fultz today at 5,300. I don't think he's like the worst play, but that's probably it for Orlando. I know Mo Wagner started recently. I think he started in their game on Friday against Cleveland. He wasn't like super productive. He did play big minutes though. He played 36 minutes and had 27 DK points. We'll have to see what they do with their starting lineup today. I'm not sure if Wagner started on Saturday. I didn't really pay much attention to NBA on Saturday. But I know Wagner started Friday. If he were to start again today, like maybe we could go there for value. But that's really it for this game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We'll talk about Boston and Toronto. So this is not a game I have a ton of interest in. We got two pretty good defensive teams going up against each other. I will say that, for Boston, no Marcus Smart today, so that's kind of impactful, or at least Marcus Smart, he didn't play Sunday, so we'll have to see if he plays today. So that'll be something to monitor. If Marcus Smart does not play, I did see they started Derek White at point guard, so I think Derek White would be a guy that would benefit. I think Malcolm Brogdon would benefit as well, assuming he plays. Those will be the two guys I'd be interested in from Boston. Even if Smart's out, I don't know if that really impacts Tatum or Brown much at all, just because we know those guys are going to have big roles regardless. This is a tough matchup, though, against Toronto. Tatum's probably going to be guarded by OG Anunoby, who's a really good defender. Brown's going to get kind of a tough matchup, too. I'm not in love with the Boston guys here, but I think if Marcus Smart sits again, that will make guys like Brogdon and White look pretty appealing. And then on the other side with Toronto's pretty much fully healthy now. So they're not a team that I really love targeting when they're fully healthy. We know who's going to get big minutes here. Siakam, OG, VanVleet, Scotty Barnes. All four of those guys are going to play really big minutes. But they all feel priced about right. Scotty Barnes is 7,100, VanVleet 7,200, OG 7,300, Siakam 9,500. The Celtics, they've been giving to centers this year. They've not been the elite defensive team against bigs that they used to be, especially without Robert Williams. This is kind of a team you can beat down low. So I don't think it's the worst matchup for Siakam, but at 9,500, Again, not in love with him on this slate. I think OG, Van Vliet, Scotty Barnes, they're just kind of like, they're there, but I'm not like running to roster them. The rest of Toronto, I'm pretty much off of. So that does it for this game. We'll definitely have some more appealing games to talk about in a second. But, right now, those first few games, not a ton of interest in much in those first few games. But OKC and Atlanta, there's definitely some guys I like in this one. So for OKC, I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is pretty much always in play. He's basically become like a matchup-proof player and someone that I think you can consider almost every slate. He'll probably get some DeJounte Murray defense, which is not like the best matchup, but like I said, I think Shai is matchup-proof. This guy can crush in any spot. We haven't seen like a huge game from Shai in a while. Like he had that 63-point game against Denver. Last few games have been mediocre, 52, 43, 45, 49. But, I mean, the dude has such a high floor. He's playing a ton of minutes. He's going to dominate the usage on this Thunder team. I think at 10,300, I'm fine going to SGA today. He's firmly in play for me. I think the Atlanta guards, where they're priced at, 9,600 for Trey, 9,400 for DeJounte. Neither one I love. I think I'd rather try and get up to Shai if I was going to pay up at guard. We did see DeJounte have a really big game last game, but that was without Trae Young. Trae Young's expected to be back for today, so especially since DeJounte's price tag came up. I'm not like that into DeJounte, and I think Trae at 9,600. He's in play. I think between the two Atlanta guards, I would rather go to Trae. But I would, if I'm going to pay up for a guard, it's going to be SGA. Like I think I'd take SGA straight up over Trae and DeJounte. Giddey, we saw his price tag come up a good amount after SGA sat. We did see Giddey have a pretty good game recently against Minnesota, even with SGA in. Maybe Giddey is starting to find his groove. 7,500 does feel like an appropriate price tag for him, but it's at least good to see him playing well lately. I don't think I'm going to go to Giddey today, though. Now, Clint Capella, I do like a ton here. I think this is a fantastic matchup for Clint Capella. I made him the thumbnail for today. We've seen OKC just get killed by centers this season. They really struggle rebounding. They give up a lot of offensive rebounds, and Capella is one of these guys that's going to dominate on the glass. I think he's very likely to get a double-double here. I would not be surprised to see like a 20-point, 20-rebound game from Capella with, 3 or 4 blocks. Like, he's had some big games this season. We've seen him put up, 44, 57 DK points against the Pelicans. Like, a 21-point, 19-rebound game with 4 blocks, that's not, like, out of the range of outcomes for Capella today. So, I think at 6,400, even though this does feel like an appropriate price tag for Capella, I think he has a lot of upside in this matchup. OKC, they've just been giving up a ton of fancy points to centers this season. So, love Capella today. I think he's a really good option at the center position. The rest of this game, I'm not, like, in love with. But I will say that Atlanta right now, they're kind of shorthanded. No John Collins, no DeAndre Hunter. So we're going to have to pay attention to what their starting lineup is. I know recently, I think it was Friday, they were really shorthanded, and we saw them start AJ Griffin. We saw them start Jalen Johnson, and we saw them start Jarrett Culver. I'm guessing we'll see Trae Young start. Obviously, Trae, DeJounte, Capella will start. Who starts in place of John Collins? It'll probably be Jalen Johnson again. So 3,700. Jalen Johnson was really productive in the game that he started. He had a double-double. He played 33 minutes. I think if he starts again, he's going to be a pretty solid value at 3,700. And then I'm guessing one of AJ Griffin or Jarrett Culver will start in place of DeAndre Hunter. Culver is 4,300 or 4,200, and Griffin is 5K. If Griffin starts like at 5K, I think that's an appropriate price tag. But he's been pretty productive in the minutes he's gotten this season. Obviously, usage there was more usage available last game without Trae. Now that Trae is going to be back, we can expect usage to kind of, funnel more towards Trae here. But I still think if AJ Griffin starts, he's going to be in play. And then if they do start Jarrett Culver, I think Jarrett Culver at 4,200 would be a pretty solid value. So there's going to be some value to go to from Atlanta today. We're going to have to pay attention to that starting lineup. Bogdan Bogdanovic did make his season debut last game, but he came off the bench. I'm guessing they're going to continue to bring him off the bench. But if he were to start, we can maybe go to Bogdan. He only played 22 minutes, though, in his first game, and he wasn't very productive either. I think it's more likely that, one of AJ Griffin, my guess is of the 2 starting spots that need to be filled, they'll be filled by either Griffin, Culver, or Jalen Johnson. 2 of those 3 guys probably starts today. Whichever starts, that's kind of who I like for value. But yeah, that's probably it for this game. I think we kind of talked about everything here. Let's move on to the next game, Miami and Memphis. So for Miami today, Jimmy Butler, I believe, he's questionable. So he's questionable. We'll have to keep an eye on this. And then I think, Miami has some other guys questionable. Tyler Hero, I believe, is questionable, or he's probable. And then Max Strus, I think, is probable as well. He is probable. So really the only important injury to monitor is Jimmy Butler. Obviously, Jimmy Butler was out for a while. He came back, I think, last 2 games. He played the last 2 games, or he made his return last game against Boston. I think now that Jimmy Butler is back, assuming he plays today, I don't love a ton on Miami just because obviously all the Miami guys like Bam and Hero and Lowry, they all got priced up for when Jimmy was out. So they all feel priced correctly for today if Jimmy plays. But if Jimmy sits, he's questionable. If he were to sit, then I think Bam, Hero and Lowry all look somewhat appealing. I don't know if they would be like slam dunks at their salary, but I think they would become viable options. I'm really not interested in anything else though from Miami. And then on the other side with Memphis, so we're gonna have to watch the injury report from Memphis. Steven Adams was out on Sunday night, and this is a back-to-back for the Grizzlies. We did see Brandon Clark start in place of Steven Adams, and I assume if Steven Adams were to be out again, Brandon Clark would start once again. Now, this is a pretty tough matchup against Bam and against a good Heat defense, but Brandon Clark's only 3,700. He's a really good point-per-minute player. He has power forward and center eligibility. If Clark starts today again, he's going to be one of the best value plays on the slate, even in a tough matchup. I think Brandon Clark would look really appealing. The rest of Memphis, though, like John Morant, it's definitely a tough spot for John Morant. I think Ja's always in play, but on this slate, I might prefer a guy like SGA over Ja. Triple J, Dylan Brooks, I don't think any of these guys look that great at their salaries. I think Triple J gets a little bit of a boost if Steven Adams is out, but not enough to where I would be like running to roster him. Definitely, if Steven Adams is out, that's going to make Brandon Clark look like a really good value, and I think Clark at 3,700 would be one of the best value plays on the slate today. But that's obviously news we kind of have to wait and see on. But yeah, I think that's probably it for this game. I think we talked about everything there. Moving on to the next game, Philadelphia and Houston. So for Philadelphia today, pretty important news. James Harden is expected to return for the Sixers today. He's been out for like over a month. So with James Harden expected to come back, that pretty much takes me off of guys like DeAnthony Melton and Shake Milton. Shake Milton's played so well without Harden, so it'll be interesting to see like what his role is, with Harden back. He's obviously not really going to be playable in DFS, I don't think, but hopefully he continues to get good minutes off the bench, or if maybe they start Harden and Milton alongside each other and move DeAnthony Melton to the bench. That's possible too. But really those three, like even Tobias Harris, Milton, and Melton, pretty much off of those guys now that Harden is back. I think the one guy I could still play would be Embiid, and that's just because Embiid has been so dominant this season. And I think even with Harden returning, I don't think that really matters for Joel Embiid. He's going to play huge minutes. He's going to have a massive usage rate. Harden's a good facilitator, so Harden can get him the ball in the post. He can put up big games with Harden. The matchup against Houston, I think, is totally fine. Houston's never been a great defensive team. They play at a pretty fast pace, so definitely think Embiid is my favorite play from Philadelphia. It's a really good matchup for Harden. We've seen Houston get killed by guards this season, but after he's been out for a month, I think it's pretty likely that, James Harden's going to be limited today, so I don't think he's really going to be viable in DFS, but obviously, the matchup's incredible. But that's really it for Philadelphia. And then on the other side with Houston, don't really like much on Houston today. The guards, KPJ and Jalen Green, neither one of them really stand out here. I don't love the spot for either one. Şengün's going to have to guard Embiid, and that just feels like foul trouble waiting to happen, so definitely scared about Şengün here, worried about some foul trouble. The rest of Houston, like Jabari Smith and Tari Eason, none of these guys look that appealing. I mean, Houston's probably a full fade for me today. Most of my interest in this game is like with a guy like Embiid. I think Embiid's the one guy I really like here. But that's it for that game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We got two more to cover. So Phoenix and Dallas. Looking at the Dallas side, I think Dallas is pretty straightforward. You got Luka at 12,200. Kind of similar to Giannis. I don't know if Luka's going to be a guy that I really try and jam in today. If I had to build my lineup right now, I don't think I'd really be building around Luka. And that's not because I think Luka's going to have a bad game. It's just it's tough to build lineups with these 12,000 salary guys because there's just not a ton of value right now. But we could get value open up. You never know. There's some teams on back-to-back today. We could see guys get rested. If a lot of value opens up, totally fine paying up for Luka because, again, Luka is matchup proof. He has a massive floor, very high ceiling. Just don't know if this is the best spot going up against Phoenix, a good defensive team. Mikal Bridges probably going to guard Luka, and Mikal's a really good defender. So Luka's not really a priority for me today, but he's viable. Christian Wood has been out the last few games, I do believe, and he's questionable for this game. So we'll have to monitor this. I think if Christian Wood does sit, that does make guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Tim Hardaway Jr. look a little bit more appealing. I know Dinwiddie had a pretty good game last game without Wood. He played 30 minutes, had 45 DK points. I think he would pick up some more usage and would be, a viable option. I think Tim Hardaway, we've seen Tim Hardaway move into the starting lineup, and he's been playing really well. The last 3 games he started, he's played 31, 40 in 28 minutes, and he's been really productive. 32, 44, and 43 Draftkings points. Phoenix, if they really focus in on trying to slow down Luka, if Mikal's going to be guarding Luka, harassing him, that could mean more opportunity for some of these other guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, like Tim Hardaway Jr. 4,600, that does still feel a little bit too cheap for Tim Hardaway. I would not expect him to continue to put up 40 DraftKings points a night, But if he's going to start and play low to mid 30s minutes, especially like if Christian Wood is out too, I think Tim Hardaway is a pretty good value play. He's definitely the guy that I think I have the most interest in on Dallas today. But Dinwiddie and Luka are firmly in play as well. Probably not going to go to anything else though on Dallas. Even with Christian Wood out, I don't think that really makes any of the bigs look that appealing. I know Dwight Powell really hasn't been doing anything as a starter. He's really not even viable in DFS right now. And then on the other side with Phoenix, so I believe Chris Paul is still out. He did not play on Sunday. I think it's a back-to-back for the Suns. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. Chris Paul's been out for a while. He's definitely been out way longer than I thought he would be. If he were to return, that pretty much takes guys like Devin Booker out of play for me, I think, at 10K. But Booker's been playing really, really well, man. He's been dominating. He's been putting up a ton of DraftKings points per game. He's been playing huge minutes as well. Obviously, minutes were kept in check on Sunday because they blew out the Spurs. But this is a game that we should see stay close. We should see Devin Booker play almost 40 minutes. The matchup is pretty tough. Dallas is a really good defensive team. But but Devin Booker is going to have a really big role. Minutes are going to be strong. Usage is going to be great. Obviously, I would prefer Chris Paul to be out before I go to Booker. But I think if Chris Paul is out, Booker is someone we can consider. DeAndre Ayton at 7,500 is okay, but I don't love him in the spot. Mikal Bridges is going to play a ton of minutes, but he feels priced about right at 6,900. The rest of Phoenix I'm not in love with. I think Cameron Payne feels priced about right. I do want to mention that last game, Torrey Craig was out. It looks like he did not play again on Sunday. So Torrey Craig has been out the last 2 games. And I know Dario Saric started on Friday without Torrey Craig. And I think he started again on Sunday as well. Dario Saric, he's not the best point per minute player, but he's only 3,300. And if he were to start again today, I think he would be an okay value. I wouldn't be slamming him into my lineups, but I think he'd be at least a playable option. But that'll all depend on if Torrey Craig plays. But that's really it for this game. Let's talk about the last game of the night, the Warriors and the Pacers. So this should be a really fun one. This game has a massive total right now. It should be a very, very high-scoring game. I know both these teams play at a really fast pace. Starting off on the Golden State side, so got some injuries to talk about here. Andrew Wiggins is questionable, and I think Jordan Poole is questionable as well. He is questionable too, so if Wiggins and Poole were to sit, that would obviously open up even more usage for a guy like Steph Curry, more usage for Klay Thompson. I think those would definitely be the 2 biggest beneficiaries if if Poole and Wiggins are out. I don't think Draymond's role would really change. I mean, Draymond's not a guy that's going to take many shots. When he has big games, it's usually because he gets a lot of rebounds and a lot of assists. He's not really a scoring player anymore. I think Klay would have more opportunity to score. I think Curry would have more opportunity to score. Both those guys would look pretty appealing if Wiggins and Poole are out. And then I don't know who would start in place of Wiggins. There's a lot of guys they could maybe start. They could maybe start Jonathan Kuminga. They can maybe start Anthony Lamb. They can maybe start Moses Moody. Is he even on? Yeah, so he could maybe start. We'll have to keep an eye on that. There could definitely be some value from Golden State if Andrew Wiggins does wind up sitting. Unfortunately, this is the last game of the night, so I don't know when we're going to get this news. But I would definitely have some interest in a guy like Kuminga or maybe Moody if he starts, maybe even Anthony Lamb. These guys are all cheap, so whoever starts I think would become playable. But I definitely like this spot for Curry. I think if Indiana can keep this game close, Curry has massive upside here. This should be a very fast-paced, high-scoring game. I think Klay is pretty appealing, and he would obviously look even better if Poole and Wiggins don't play. And then on the other side with Indiana, so Tyrese Halliburton got ruled out Sunday, and he's already been ruled out for this game, so he's not expected to play today. And then T.J. McConnell got ruled out Sunday. Don't know yet about McConnell's status for Monday's game. I assume if McConnell plays that he will start at point guard, and he's going to be a terrific value at 3,900 if he plays and starts. But we did see them start without McConnell, without Halliburton. We did see them start Andrew Nembhard at point guard. So I'm pretty sure their starting lineup was Nembhard, Buddy Hield, Nembhard, Jalen Smith, Buddy Hield, Turner, and I can't remember who the 5th starter was. It might have been Mathurin, might have been Naismith. I think it was Naismith. Yeah, he started. So my guess is they'll run the same starting lineup unless McConnell plays. Then they'll probably put McConnell in there. But there's going to be a lot to like from Indiana. Without Tyrese Halliburton, that just opens up so much usage. I mean, Halliburton takes a good amount of shots. He's obviously got the ball in his hands a ton. There's going to be more opportunity for guys like Miles Turner, Buddy Hield. I think Buddy Hield at 5,800 is going to be a really, really good play today. Fast-paced game. You do worry about blowout here, but man, 5,800 is definitely too cheap for Buddy Hield with Halliburton out today. I think a guy like Andrew Nembhard at 4,200, he started at point guard on Sunday. If he were to start again at point guard, he would be a really good value play. And like I said earlier, if T.J. McConnell comes back and he plays, I think at 3,900, he's going to be a good value. Miles Turner even, Golden State's been not as elite defensively against centers as they have been in previous years. So I think it's kind of like an okay spot for Miles Turner. It's 7,300. I don't mind going there either. There's going to be a lot to like from Indiana today. I do worry about blowout here, but I think if this game stays close, you could see a lot of these guys outperform their salaries. Turner, Hield, even Mathurin, Nimhard, I definitely like for value. Naismith, I don't hate either. But we'll have to pay attention who's actually in, who starts. That'll be something to monitor. But there's definitely a lot to like in this Indiana Golden State game. I'm pretty sure it has the highest total on the slate. Both these teams play really fast, so it should be a high-scoring game in general. But that does it, guys. That does it for Monday's 8-game slate. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, I appreciate you checking out these DFS videos. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, if you guys are new to the channel and you have not checked out the sponsor of the video, check out PrizePicks. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks and use my promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up for PrizePicks. Make sure you guys check them out. Sign up with that code if you have not yet. But good luck tonight, guys. As always, appreciate you watching these DFS videos every day. Hope you guys enjoy all the DFS content I provide, and best of luck tonight, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.